Welcome to this week's spelling lesson. This week we're looking at another prefix, and that prefix is anti. So let's get started. As always, you're going to need something to write on and something to write with, so pause the video and find that if you need to. We're going to begin with a mini spelling test which practices a spelling rule that we looked at in year 2. Pause the video between the words if you need more time to write. Number 1, flies. The plane flies into the airport. Flies. Number 2, tries. The girl tries to learn her times tables every day. Tries. Number 3, replies. He replies to his teacher's class dojo message. Replies. Number 4, copies. She copies the spelling words into her book accurately. Copies. Number 5, babies. The babies are asleep in the nursery. Let's see how we did. Here are the correct spellings, and the rule that we were applying for these spellings was when we add es to nouns and verbs ending in y, the y is changed to I. So if you look at number 1, the word fly would be spelt F-L-Y. When we add es to the word, we have to change the y to an I, and it becomes F-L-I-E-S. If you got any of those wrong, keep practicing them. Let's look at a prefix today, and that prefix is anti. And when we add a prefix to the beginning of a word, it makes a new word. Most prefixes don't change the spelling of the root word. Let's look at some examples. The first example is the word hero. If I add the prefix super that we learnt last week, that will become superhero. Don't change the spelling of hero in any way. The middle word, if we start with the root word national and we add the prefix inter that we learnt 2 weeks ago, we will have the word international. No change to the spelling of the root word again. And finally, if we start with the root word behave and we add the prefix miss, we get misbehave. The opposite meaning of the root word behave. Miss changes the meaning of the root word to its opposite, and we get misbehave, no change to the root word. So let's apply that rule to today's prefix, which is anti. Let's think about as many words as we can that use the word anti. Bit trickier this week. See if you can think of any, and I'll give you a few examples on the next slide. You could have come up with antifreeze. So antifreeze is a liquid which can be added to water to lower the freezing point and work against it freezing. We often put antifreeze in the windscreen wiper solution in our cars in winter to stop the windscreen freezing. Antibiotic, a medicine that works against the growth of or destroys microorganisms. And antiseptic, preventing the growth of disease-carrying microorganisms. So what might anti mean? Have a think about what's the link between these words. It means against or opposite. Against or opposite. So antifreeze is against freezing. Antibacterial works against bacteria, and antiseptic is the opposite of septic. Okay, keep moving on. Let's see if we can find the words that we're learning this week for our spellings. One of them is this word, the opposite of clockwise. That's right, anticlockwise. One of them would fill in this blank. To stop my cut from getting infected, the doctor gave me some antiseptic cream. What's this word? My brother was told off for being antisocial. So we've got antiseptic, anticlockwise, and antisocial. They're our 3 words of the week. Let's look at antiseptic first. It has the root word septic, which means infected with bacteria. That comes from Greek, septic. And when we add anti, it's the opposite. It is against bacteria. Okay, that will help you with your definition. What word class is it? Put it in a sentence. Find the odd word out from these words: disinfectant, bacteria, cleanser, and sterilizer, which is the odd one out. And trace the word on your hand, please. So my definition, an antiseptic is a chemical that kills germs. So it's against germs. It can be used as a noun or an adjective. It depends how you use it in the sentence. In the definition, it's used as a noun. An antiseptic, I've put an article in front of it, makes it a noun. But in my sentence, I'm using it as an adjective. I cleaned the cut on my knee with an antiseptic wipe. Yes, it's describing the wipe as being antiseptic. So in that sentence, I'm using it as an adjective. The odd word out was not bacteria. It was, oh yes, it was bacteria. Beg your pardon. The odd word out was bacteria. The other three words, disinfectant, cleanser, and sterilizer, are all synonyms of antiseptic. Okay, and you should have traced the word on your hand. Let's learn to spell antiseptic. Let's clap the syllables to start with. Antiseptic. There are 4 syllables. Have a look at them. Try and memorize what they look like in those 4 chunks. Antiseptic. Not that difficult to spell, this one. Tick at the end. We might be tempted to put a K with the C because often when words end in a hard K sound like kick or back or clock, we use CK digraph at the end. This one is just a C, so that's one tricky bit. Anti, the prefix, is spelt with an I, A-N-T-I. So that bit, T-I, could be tricky. So take special note of those 2 chunks. The others, an and sep, are phonetic, so we should be able to spell those quite easily. Right, the first chunk, how did we spell it? That's right, A-N. An. T, that was the one I said take special attention of, T-I. And sep, yep, S-E-P. And tick, don't be tempted to put anything on the end, it's just T-I-C, tick. Antiseptic. Which is the correct spelling? Copy it down. Don't look at what you wrote for the last slide. Use your brain. This is the correct one, antiseptic. And let's fill in the blanks on this word. That's what you should have added, the 2 tricky bits. Antiseptic. Can you write the word backwards now? It would look like this. Kitpesitn. And finally, without looking at anything you've written already, can you write the word from memory? Antiseptic. A-N-T-I-S-E-P-T-I-C. Antiseptic. Well done. Let's move on to our next word. Anticlockwise. Anticlockwise comes from the root word clockwise, which is an English word, moving in the same direction as the hands of a clock. So if you watch the hands on a clock, they always move in the same direction, following the numbers from 1, 2, 3 in that order, increasing. If something moves in an anti-clockwise direction, it's going the other way. It's going backwards, isn't it? Now, see if you can define the word, put it in a sentence, find the word class, odd one out from these words, histamine, climax, drink, septic, which is the odd word out. Trace it on your hand. Join me on the next screen. Definition of anti-clockwise. If something moves anti-clockwise, it moves round in a circle in the opposite direction to the hands of a clock. It's an adverb because it's telling us the direction. The sentence I chose was, we run round the Daily Mile track in an anti-clockwise direction. Which is the odd word out? The odd word out was drink, because the other 3 words you can add the prefix anti to them to make a new word. Antihistamine, which we take to combat hay fever. Anticlimax, when something is not as exciting as you thought it was going to be. Antiseptic, something that we use to clean a cut to fight bacteria. Anti-drink, I've never heard that word. Let's learn to spell anti-clockwise. Let's tap the syllables. Anti-clockwise, 4 of them. So we've got 4 chunks again this time. Anti, we know how to spell that. We learnt it on the last word. Remember, it's an I with the T, anti. Clock, you can spell that phonetically if you sound it out. And wise, Little tricky, you have to use a split digraph to make the I sound, and it's an S, not a Z. It's a hard sounding Z, isn't it? But it's an S. Okay, so take special note of T and Y's. The other two chunks should be fairly straightforward, and let's practice. First chunk, how do we spell it? That's right, A-N, Ann, just as it sounds. T, we should be getting the hang of this now. It's T-I. Clock, C-L-O-C-K, clock. And wise, using a split digraph, W-I-S-E, wise, anticlockwise. Which one is correct? Copy it down without looking at what you wrote before. That's your correct answer, anticlockwise. And without looking, fill in the blanks. That's what you should have completed, anticlockwise. And can you write it backwards? Very long word. Have a go. Esicalkitna. Write it from memory. Anticlockwise. Well done if you spelt that correctly. A long word, but if you take care, it's not too tricky. Let's move on to the last word for the week. And that word is antisocial. It comes from the root word, the Latin root word social. Well, it comes from the root word social, which comes from the Latin word socius, meaning friend. Social means relating to human beings as a group. How would you define the word antisocial? Which word class is it? Put it in a sentence. The odd word out, please, from these: unacceptable, disruptive, offensive, friendly. Trace the word on your hand. My definition was, if someone behaves in an antisocial way, they behave in a way that annoys others. It's an adjective. We often talk about antisocial behaviour. We're describing the behaviour using the adjective antisocial. Here's my sentence. Throwing litter in the playground is an antisocial thing to do. The odd word out was friendly, because the other three words, unacceptable, disruptive, offensive, are all synonyms for antisocial, and you've hopefully traced the word on your hand. Let's clap out the syllables for antisocial. Another 4-syllable word I think we'll find. Antisocial. So anti, we should be getting the hang of spelling now. So is simply S-O, just like the word so. And shul, that's the tricky bit. It's spelt with a C, and the C and the I together are making a sh sound. So shul, and it's A-L at the end. It doesn't sound very clearly like A-O when we say antisocial. But it is. Okay, so 2 tricky bits to note, T and shul. The other 2 bits are straightforward. First bit then, the easy bit, an, A-N. T, we should know this now, T-I. So, just like the conjunction so, S-O. And shul, this is the tricky bit, C-I-A-L. Antisocial. Which one's correct? Don't look at what you wrote before. Try and spot the correct one and copy it down. That was the correct one. Fill in the blanks now. Should have filled in those letters. Write it backwards if you can. Leikositna. And finally write the word from memory. Antisocial. Well done if you managed to spell all 3 words correctly. If you didn't, you can watch the video as many times as you like and keep practicing. For your homework, I would like you to write a sentence for each of the 3 words and upload a photo of those sentences to Class Dojo. And if you spot any words using the prefix anti in your reading this week, please take a photograph and let me know where you found it. Thank you for joining me for this week's spelling lesson, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.